and I really knew what I didn't know, and that was a lot. The leadership of the firm took notice of what I was doing, and they asked me to lead our Washington, D.C. office. There's a difference between being a manager and being a leader. There's a lot of leaders that fall into leadership positions because they've just really been themselves. Not everybody is gifted with the ability to set goals. It generated results, but it was absolutely zero fun. Deepak knows very well, success leaves clues.
So welcome, Joe. I'm really happy to have you here. So these are the students I have in my class, all students of the Applied University in Rotterdam, where I live, and they're all from different areas, and they're doing this course with me, coaching leadership, as I mentioned, I think to you already. Yeah, so we are happy to have you here and also hear from you. Okay, what can you teach us about leadership and maybe also about coaching leadership? Can you tell me us a little bit about your background first, Joe?
Sure. And Deepak, thank you for having me. And I'll say good afternoon to everybody. I think it's later in the day for you all. And congratulations on having an amazing coach in Deepak. We have one thing in common. He's all of our coaches. I am also coached by Deepak. So I'm just really pleased to be with you all today, and congratulations on just being in the class and trying to improve, which is what we're all trying to do together. I'm based in Washington, D.C., and just a little bit background on me. I'm a real estate advisor. I work for a firm called JLL. We're a global real estate firm, valued about $9 billion in annual revenue. We're in over 80 countries and have over 80,000 employees. And I am a leader within our tenant advisory practice here at the firm. And so I'm responsible for our business here in Washington, D.C. I started off with this company when I was an intern. I was in college at university, and I went on an internship program and just fell in love with the business. And I looked up, and it's 22 years later. So it's been a while since I've been in your shoes, but as I look into your eyes, I see the university student that I was, and it only feels like a few years ago. So you'll blink and you'll be an old man like me.
Or an old woman.
Old woman, exactly.
So did you always want to become someone like a leader in a leadership position, Joe?
The leadership side of it in my profession, it's really a performance-based culture. And what I mean by that is, as I started my career very early on, as I indicated, coming out of university, I started in a city called Cincinnati, Ohio, in the Midwest in the United States, which is where my family is from. And as I graduated from the university in Cincinnati, I worked tirelessly, and I found myself 2 to 3 years into our company being the top performer in my office. And while that would have made probably a lot of 20-year-olds quite happy, it really scared me. It scared me that I was performing at a high level at such an early age, and I was outperforming my peers. And I really knew what I didn't know, and that was a lot. Mm-hmm. And so what I did is I just took a step back and investigated other parts of our company that were much more mature, that had leadership in place and broader teams that I could really learn from. And my fiance at the time, which is now my wife, we evaluated a lot of markets. And so it was actually leadership that brought me to the East Coast. Mm-hmm. And so it was always something that I craved and admired and valued. And then Deepak, over time, I gravitated towards helping the associates and the younger professionals because I didn't want them to experience the gap that I felt at a very early age. And I just really started to enjoy it and be tremendously fulfilled by the impact I was having. And I've said this before, jokingly, no good deed goes unpunished. the leadership of the firm took notice of what I was doing, and they asked me to lead our Washington, D.C. office, and that was about 10 years ago. So
Okay.
here we are.
Yeah. So what do you think was the trigger or was the motivation for the organization to move you more into a leadership position?
It was really my ability to balance the leadership side with production, and so we have a unique way of approaching leadership at our firm. They're called player coach, and what's meant by that is I'm just kind of a sports analogy. I still play in the game. I'm still a real estate professional, but I'm also a coach, and I'm responsible for leading our team here in Washington. And so the benefits that provides is it allows me to stay tremendously connected. It humbles me on a daily basis as I'm being, sometimes told things I don't want to hear with clients or prospective clients. I'm reminded of the challenges of our profession, and I use those reminders daily to influence how I lead at a team level. I think there's a difference between being a manager and being a leader, and a manager just dictates orders and has maybe no connectivity or awareness of the feelings and what's driving their team. As I think that everybody needs to be treated differently. Everybody is different, and everybody has different drivers and goals and backgrounds. And so you just need to have really an intimate awareness around what that is. But ultimately, if you're wanting to lead, you'll find yourself very fulfilled by helping others and seeing the impact that you're making. And that, more than anything else, probably is getting you out of bed in the morning.
Yeah. Isn't that really complex, if you really have like different people in your organization and you have to take into account like, hey, everybody is different and I have to approach everyone differently. It seems like a lot of work.
Everybody on this call is unique, right? And so, but it's important to have guiding principles and a very specific vision, and to generate consensus across the team. We can use sports as the analogy. There are so many position players on the field, but there's a common goal that unites us. And so while what motivates one particular person on this call may be tremendously different than the other, it's important that you know what's important to them. I can tell you that starting this career right out of university, I wasn't married. I didn't have children. I now have both. And the perspective that I now have as I look at my colleagues' offices and I see pictures of their children was dramatically different than as a very young leader in the firm that did not have those life experiences. And so I think it's as you grow and you get to know really what's important, you become a lot more aware and candidly more relatable on a personal level, as you really want to hit people in the heart rather than their head, as they'll pretty much do anything for you if they know that you have their back. And it takes time to build the trust and confidence of your colleagues, but if they know that you have their back, it really is a game changer.
Yeah. So I'm fortunate enough, Joe, to know a few of the people that you're working with, and the stories I hear from them about you, they're always very positive. And so I know what you're doing is you're making an impact for other people in your organization as well. So I know that firsthand, actually. So that's great. And looking at the students here, they are actually in the beginning of their career. And, one of the reasons they sign up for this course is also that they're looking at leadership as a way to propel themselves forward into that leadership position. Is that something that they should be focused on from the early beginnings, or is this something that they should just let it be and go with the flow and see what happens?
I think, having an awareness around what makes a great leader and you being able to really internalize and probably reflect upon where you feel you can add the most value. Everybody has life experience. You want to play to your strengths. And so, not suggest that you can't learn to become a great leader. You definitely can. And it just means so many different things to so many different people. I think having just the kind of the knowledge of, again, what makes a great leader, what what inspires people to be their best, and how you can influence that is a life skill. So whether you go into business or you're just going to dinner, it's really important just to understand, how you can get the most out of others, because it's just so fulfilling to know that you had a very small impact on what could be a game-changing decision for a family member, a friend, a colleague. So that's a long yes.
Okay, great. And looking at when you were growing up, when you were a young boy, was it that your parents or something else in your environment encouraged you to go for a leadership position or not?
I did not seek out a leadership position. I grew up in a very loving household. My mother and father are still alive. They're still married. My father was in sales, and I observed just a relentless work ethic in my father, and I saw that he worked very hard. He was gone a lot, trying to provide for the family, and I saw the fruit of his labor. And he was just a wonderful father, and he was a fantastic role model for me. And so he led by example. He never held a leadership role. You can lead without having a title of a leader. And I think there's a lot of leaders that fall into leadership positions because they've just really been themselves, and they had a tremendous passion for what they did. And one day they looked behind them and they saw people were following. And others noticed. And so then they were put in a formal position to lead. But that oftentimes happens naturally, just as a byproduct of how passionate you are given what you're doing.
So what do you see as the most difficult thing in a leadership position?
That's a great question. There are challenges. I think sometimes, as I have, just almost kind of matured into my role, I think it was Miles Davis, Deepak, the musician, said, it almost took me my entire career to play like myself. Being yourself, and as you get into leadership, there's a difference between having a role model and having a mentor, and versus acting like that person or trying to literally be that person. You want to model others, and you want to take, what's great, and then you kind of make it your own. Just really being comfortable with your own skills, recognizing who you are, who you're not, and just being as transparent as you possibly can is really important. But also, there's the reality of leading. If you are running a business, you need to make difficult decisions. And this past year has been a challenge for so many people. We've had to let certain people go. That's by far probably the toughest thing that I've had to do. There's a difference between letting someone go because they're not performing versus letting someone go because of the economy and something that is completely out of their control, knowing that they have a family to provide for. So that is a challenge that I've not had to deal with frequently throughout my career, but one that I've had to deal with recently that it's no fun.
Yeah, I can understand that, Joe, and I can see the heart that you're putting into it. So that's really great. And you just mentioned something briefly, and I don't know if everybody, because you know it and I know it as well. I'm not sure that everyone here understands the concept of modeling. Could you just elaborate a little bit more on that?
It's incredible. I mean, I think about it constantly, the access that we have right now, I mean, a show of hands, I'm sure there are various podcasts that you all are listening to, learning from, Instagram, Facebook, others. And these are fantastic tools to connect with friends, family, etc. But they're also an opportunity to engage and follow and model those that you inspire to be more like. And there's an expression that Deepak knows very well, and it's success leaves clues. And success of those that have had to start from scratch, work from the ground up, and these are phenomenal stories of men and women that have accomplished so much. More oftentimes than not, they've written a book, they've written a biography, and they've told you exactly how they did it. I mean, there's that example of those that are not in your day-to-day lives. There's others that are. They may be a family member, they may be a coworker, they may be in your class, they may be at university, and you just admire them to seek them out and to understand how they have gone about it, what are their, daily habits and routines, and to try to model what they have done that they would credit to taking their life, taking their game to the next level, personally, professionally, and using that to accelerate your personal and professional development is a game changer. So always, try to find people that you admire and understand how it is they came to be. You'll very rarely find someone that doesn't enjoy talking about themselves. It's human nature. People enjoy it, even if they're shy, and they'll very much appreciate you asking those questions and view it as a compliment.
So you just have to be aware of people around you and see like, hey, what is it that they have that you would like to have as well, or develop within yourself as well, and use them as your model that you could learn from. By the way, let me just ask the students here, like, do you guys have like a question to Joe? Because this is like a unique opportunity that we have here to have Joe here with us. Linda, go ahead.
What goals do you have for yourself? You're obviously very successful. What goals do you still have? Where do you draw your inspiration from?
My goals, as I work with Deepak on this regularly, is I have personal goals and professional goals, and I have goals first and foremost in my faith. I have goals with my family as a father and as a husband, and I realized that at an earlier age, Linda, my goals were very much professional, heavily weighted on my professional goals, and over time they've become very much balanced. And so I think I can provide you a list of very specific goals as it relates to financial and non-financial, but generally speaking, and just as a North Star, there another expression that I know Deepak subscribes to is success without fulfillment is failure. My goal every day is really to be present, to seek fulfillment in all that I do, and to serve. And as silly as it sounds, not to multitask, Linda, as I find I'm not present when I'm multitasking, and I'm not able to give you all my undivided time and attention. And this is the moment that we have together, and we'll never get this back. And this is just really special. And I think I've admired and modeled a lot of folks that I just would do anything in life for. And I reflect upon what was it about he or she that they just have that special something. And I feel like they cared and they listened and they were really present and they weren't on to the next thing. So my goal is it may sound like a small goal, but it's to continually to be present in everything I'm doing day in and day out, and not be distracted by the ding on the phone, the email pop up, the phone's ringing, and just dial in to what I'm doing as I'm doing it. and I'm so much more fulfilled, and I feel like it's just such a more of an enjoyable experience in general.
Thank you.
Anyone else has a different question to Joe?
Yeah, I have a question too. How do you trigger the motivation of your employees? Because that's something I'm struggling with within my leadership.
It's a great question. Over the past year has been very unique, right? But I have a habit of meeting with my team one-on-one on a regular basis, and so I listen and I ask questions just around what it is that they're working on, what's happening in their life. I work with colleagues that are grown men and women that know what they need to do, but are often distracted by or off center, so to speak, by other things in their life. And so it could just be us listening as leaders. But it's also sometimes you realize that not everybody is gifted with the ability to set goals. It doesn't come naturally for people to actually follow through with certain things. And so you need to build a plan around each individual and help them be accountable for what they want to accomplish. And it's candidly, it's what Deepak does really, really well. And I model Deepak in my day-to-day with my colleagues here. And it's just truly understanding what it is they're trying to accomplish. And most importantly, why is it they're trying to do this? Because if you get into the task of the job, there's no emotion, there's no juice, there's no passion, because it's just another to-do list. There's 50 things we have to do today, and it just will drag you down. But if you get back to why they're doing this, and if you look at the picture of their children, and we just kind of recenter them, and they know that you have their back, and you really communicate that, and you support them, and you listen, and then you follow through. If you do, as a leader, what you say you're going to do, you will be in the top 1% of leaders in the world. I mean, and I mean that sincerely, because one of my mentors told me this a long time ago, and I thought, well, that's kind of silly. People always do, what they say they're going to do. But then I started to pay attention to just the littlest things of colleagues and leaders, and hey, I'll call you back. Never called me back. Or I'll have this to you by 8 a.m. tomorrow. 8 a.m. came and went, right? And those little things, little by little, you continuing to do what you say you're going to do, them trusting you, you develop just a much deeper relationship. And it again, I think it separates you from being a manager to a leader. And there's a balance between being their friend and being a leader, right? So you need to be tough when you need to be tough. You need to remind them of the goals that you established together, and you need to give them room to perform. But for them to be in an environment that allows them to thrive and ensure that they're in a position that aligns with their skill sets is also very, very important, because sometimes this person is doing marketing, but they should be in accounting. And I'm not sure how they landed in marketing, and it's your job just to understand, again, what fuels them. And if you've got someone that loves numbers and they're in marketing, we need to help them find a different career path. And you, again, listening facilitates that.
Okay, thank you.
Great questions we're having here. I got one more. Friso? Yeah.
I have a question about you and the directing, the guys on the floor, because how do you close the gap between the guys that are working on the floor and the guys at the directing top? And how do you make sure they don't look up to you so you can stay close to those guys?
If I'm understanding the question, how do we stay close as a team? And I think it's a byproduct of me being a player coach. I am doing exactly what they're doing every single day. I'm reaching out to companies, trying to generate new opportunities, and the phone could get hung up on me. and I'm calling and, hi, this is Joe Judge, and I'm click. I'm not above that. I'm doing exactly what they're doing. They're seeing me get hung up on. They're seeing me be faced with the realities of commercial real estate. Everybody is at home, and I'm in the business of people being in office buildings. So this is an interesting time, right? So everybody is very humbled by what has occurred, and I'm not disconnected from that. And so I've also experienced at an associate level on the floor, as you said, I've been on the floor, and I have all of my business plans that I put together when I was 1 year in the business and 2 years in the business, and we go over their plans and we talk about how much it costs for them to pay rent in their apartment, what their goals are, and they want to get out of the apartment and they want to have a balcony. It relates to the last question that was asked. It's going deeper into, my goals could be much more, aspirational from their perspective than just getting to that next step, getting an apartment with a balcony, but that costs an extra $300 a month. And okay, so how do we get you there? And what are we going to do to reverse engineer a business plan that is going to produce, an outcome that gets you to that goal? And for them to know that I've been in that apartment without a balcony, because I have, it's just very important not to lose touch with where you were and where they are, and how you can help them get to that next step.
Joe, I asked you to be available for half an hour. I see I have 2 more questions. Do you have time to stay a little bit longer, or do you have to leave?
No, I do. Yep.
Okay, great. So GF, I'll give you the floor, then I'll go to Lisanne, and then we let Joe go.
Thank you. What is necessary to do for a leader or an individual to make a quality role of a role model you admire into your own?
To maximize the kind of the potential of others, we first need to understand what drives them. But I also think there, as we've talked about with modeling, success leaves clues. I think that, a leader cares. I mean, they really care. The top reason most people leave their profession isn't because of how they're compensated. It's because they don't feel appreciated. They don't feel that the leadership understands them. And I think it gets back to some of the other things that we talked about before, as far as being yourself and knowing that your style will change over time. And you can only you just need to be honest all the time, without question, with not only yourself, but with others. If you don't know the answer, and if you don't feel like you're a subject matter expert or capable of speaking to a particular topic, make it clear what you know and what you don't know. The team will really, really appreciate that. And at the end of the day, I think leadership is always about showing up. If you could be tired, you could be not feeling great, no matter what, every single day, keep showing up and doing your best. And that over time, people will just really observe that you are truly all in and passionate about what you're doing, and they'll really come to respect that. But you just, again, caring and sincerely caring about improving the lives of others will resonate and will make a really big difference.
Great.
Thank you.
Excellent. So we'll go for the final question to Lisanne.
So you were talking about being yourself is very important. But what do you do to set boundaries to really stay true to yourself and values? Because sometimes other people can trigger you in other certain ways. But what do you do yourself to set those boundaries?
Sure. No, it's a really good question. I think a daily practice that I have, and it's a term Deepak is familiar with. It's called priming, and I try to get in a peak state every day. How I start my day, and I'm feeding my mind with my reading, with my exercising, and I'm reminding myself with the notes that I have in front of me, the goals that I have in front of me, who I am, who I want to be today, what my intention is today. And I mean, just yesterday I was in a conversation with colleagues, and the conversation drifted into gossip and complaining. And I had to excuse myself and just make it clear, team, this isn't productive. Complaining is not conversation, is a comment they'll hear me say frequently. And certain people don't mean anything by it. They may just start drifting into what tends to be a conversation about others. And soon they will realize that you do not participate in that type of engagement. And sometimes you can't find your way out of certain things like that. But I feel like if you are being very intentional daily about who it is you are, and more importantly, who you want to become and you want to improve, it could just be, I mean, I have notebooks. I mean, like my notes. I have my notebooks here in front of me of just things that motivate me, inspire me, quotes, things that I read even this morning that center me. I always have my notebooks with me that just remind me, and so that awareness and that intention is very important.
Thank you.
So it's not so much about setting boundaries for other people, but knowing who you are and what is important to you, and you're going to operate from that inner knowing, like this is what I want, this is what I want to achieve. And then it's not about setting boundaries, but more about expressing that who you are, and then other people, it will trigger other people to respond to that. So because if you're setting boundaries, actually, if you're setting boundaries, like here's a boundary and here's a boundary and here's a boundary and here as well, and then you feel like, so you're protected, but you're also alone, right? And nothing can affect you, but nobody can reach you as well. So it's maybe important. That's why I think the explanation that Joe gave out, hey, who am I? What do I have? What's my intention for today? I think that's a great way of putting it. Then you don't need to set boundaries. So fantastic.
I'll just add one thing, Deepak.
Yeah.
I mean, and I've been doing this now over 10 years. That is probably the way I led at the very beginning. I made it very clear, these were the goals. This is what we are going to do. If you did not fall in this box, you were failing. If you were in the box, you were succeeding. And it was black and white. And there was no in between. And it was very transactional. And it generated results, but it was absolutely zero fun for me or for them. And so over time, what happened is you started to, again, hit the heart more than the head. And you really took a step back and realized that success is a journey, and everybody is different, and they're coming from many different places, as we've discussed today. So I think that's a natural way of looking at things as far as understanding, okay, what is success and how are we going to get there? But in just, be kind to yourself. Also, we're all growing and learning every single day. I think I just read something the other day, fail forward. So I'm going to fail a lot today. And I just need to continue to learn from failures and mistakes and just keep failing forward and growing, because I've failed a ton in the last 10 years. And maybe I failed more than others, and that's why I'm on this call.
Yeah. Well, that's sure one of the reasons why you're here, Joe. So great. Thanks a lot, Joe, for spending your time with us, and wish you lots of success. And I think we all enjoyed a lot from your sharing with us and spending your time here with us as well. So thanks a lot, Joe.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Good luck. Great to see you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Excellent.